Here is everything Trump did this week. Number 1, he was mentioned over 1,800 times in new Epstein file releases. Here we go again, boys. So the Department of Justice is legally required to release all of the files related to the Jeffrey Epstein case via the Epstein Files Transparency Act. It was that act that was passed after Thomas Massie went on stage and pretty much called everybody a pedophile unless they released the Epstein files. And so far, they've been releasing them very slowly. They are taking their sweet goddamn time getting this shit out. And it's probably for a reason that doesn't really come as a surprise. Well, that all changed on Friday when 3.5 million documents relating to Jeffrey Epstein were released for the public to see. First of all, when you first enter the website, it asks you to verify your age as 18 years or older. If you hit no, Donald Trump is probably given your cell phone number. But once you do get into the Epstein files, you will be surprised at how many celebrities were on this goddamn island. First of all, Elon Musk, the guy who's been campaigning to get these files released, and the guy who called Trump a pedophile earlier last year, who's practically begging Epstein to ship him over to Pedophile Bay. But it seemed like he was having some trouble because it seemed like he couldn't really understand the pedophile code. Epstein was inviting him for the opening of the UN General Assembly, and Elon Musk clearly thought Epstein was just inviting him for some UN diplomat talk, to which Epstein did not react well. And clearly he did not mean to just go to the UN General Assembly because he's saying there's no one over 25 there, and they're all cute. I don't know if Elon Musk actually did end up making it to the island, whether he cracked the code or not, but he was clearly fighting tooth and nail too. I'm mostly going to be using screenshots for this because, of course, the Department of Justice is taking shit down like crazy. I would cite all of these sources, but the links are probably not going to work by the time this video goes out, but I'm fairly sure all of these are real. The ones that haven't been have been community noted anyway. Next up on our list is Bill Gates, because this is where things get fucking insane. So deep within this file release, there was this email that Jeffrey Epstein sent to himself, but it's a letter addressed to Bill Gates. And the stuff in this letter, oh my god. So this was an apology letter to Bill, and in it, Epstein complained that Bill Gates tried to make him delete the emails relating to an STD that he got, most likely from one of the girls on the island, and that Bill Gates requested that Epstein give him antibiotics that he would secretly give to his wife to stop her from knowing. What the fuck? This is possibly the most insane thing that I have read about a tech CEO in my entire life, besides the fact that Steve Jobs, for some fucking reason, didn't get chemotherapy and instead chose to eat vegetables. Because what the fuck is this? That has to be top 10 worst weeks of all time. You go to Pedophile Island, you have sex with an underage girl, she gives you an STD, and then the guy running the Pedophile Island tells your wife. I guess you get what you deserve. But holy shit, that is crazy. It was also revealed in the files that Epstein was reportedly banned from Xbox Live for what they say is harassment, threats, and/or abuse of players that was severe, repeated, and/or excessive. I pray that one day we find out what this guy was saying in those Call of Duty lobbies. But there was also a bunch of stuff about Prince Andrew in the file released this week. What could Prince Andrew have done? Oh, he's just a little guy, right? Holy fucking shit. Of all the people that were in these Epstein files, Prince Andrew got outed the fucking hardest, bro. Because what the hell are these photos, bro? There was also an email between 2 US investigators saying that Prince Andrew was an accessory to the death of a tortured child, which does not make those other photos much better. And there was also a ton of other miscellaneous stuff in there as well. There's a ton of evidence of Epstein ordering people to be killed, like possibly RFK Jr.'s wife, as well as other people he supposedly worked with Israel to kill. Howard Lutnick, Trump's Commerce Secretary, reportedly met with Epstein over 7 years after he claimed to have cut ties with him. RFK Jr. was said to have been on the island. Jay-Z and Pusha T were apparently working with him as well. George Bush Sr., the unk, not the little one, apparently raped a boy on Epstein Island. Like, this involves everybody, dude. Not just Trump, not just Prince Andrew, okay, not just Bill Clinton. Literally everyone was taking trips to this island. And in this file release, nobody had more evidence stacked against them than Donald Trump. Because although the Department of Justice has already taken it down, they released a memo that they created assembling all of the allegations against him. That's right, this document was created in August of 2025, okay? This isn't an old thing. They've been searching for his name in these files for months now. And they even organized them all into a nice little Google Doc that we can look at, as well as highlighted the ones that are of interest. So that's nice of them. There's reports of him having sex with anonymous girls and abusing them afterward. There's stuff about him participating in big orgy parties with underage girls. He claims that some of the girls went missing and were rumored to have been murdered and buried underneath Trump's golf course. Accounts of Trump murdering newborn children, roofing and raping girls in hotel rooms, auctioning off 13-year-old girls and penetrating them to rate them. If you're part of the somehow very large group of people who are pro-pedophile but anti-gang violence, He also had deals with the Sinaloa cartel. And do you know what the Department of Justice had to say in response to all of these tips? They said that they can't be investigated. There's just nothing they can do. All of these sources, all of these people who are claiming all of this shit about Trump, some of which who left their contact information, like they weren't just anonymous people, cannot be investigated further. They're just not gonna do it. And you might say, well, Sean, even if they're not anonymous, all of these are tips. People can just say whatever they want to smear my great president's name. He had nothing to do with any of this. Okay, well, let me show you some of the other files that were released in this batch. Well, there are FBI interviews, not anonymous tips, okay? They actually brought people in for questioning, in which witnesses say that Maxwell presented girls to Trump just like she did for every other victim on Epstein Island. Again, this is an FBI interview. Okay, it's not just some random person saying something. And if that's not good enough for you, there is sworn testimony. Okay, someone said this under threat of perjury, that Donald Trump told a reported victim that he would, quote, make her disappear like another 12-year-old girl. If this isn't good enough for you to show you that Trump is in these files and went to this island and did this shit, then I don't know what to tell you. And I know I made a lot of jokes about this at the beginning to try and make it engaging and try and make it entertaining for you guys, but this is a serious fucking thing, dude. The president of the United States is a rapist, and no one is doing anything about it. Not to mention, they only released 3.5 million files, when earlier they were claiming there were 5.2 million files. So where did the other 1.7 million files go? They're still just keeping them in the Department of Justice. They just have them, and they're not showing us. And no one in Congress is doing anything, because Republicans control all of those committees, and their entire party's survival is hinging on protecting this one pedophile. It's fucking maddening, dude. When all of this horrifying shit happened on this island every single day, and the people who did it are now in some of the highest positions of power anyone can be in the world, the people in Congress are doing nothing about it, because they would rather all keep their jobs and ride the coattails of a semi-unpopular Republican president than actually bring justice to these horrible, horrible people. Call your reps, okay? Especially if you live in a Republican district, because this shit has to stop. Number 2, he had his FBI raid a Georgia election office. Listen, okay, if there's one thing that you need to pay attention to this week, it's fucking this. This week, Trump had his FBI raid a Fulton County election office in Georgia. They came in, they had a warrant, they said, we're taking all your ballots, and there was pretty much nothing Georgia could do about it. They literally just walked in and raided the place. Like, what the fuck? He sent the director of national intelligence over to oversee this raid. This is not just like routine fucking maintenance, okay? They're not going in to fix the goddamn light bulbs. Like, the Fulton County chairman is now saying that the ballots seized by the FBI in this raid are no longer secure because they're no longer under the jurisdiction of the normal electoral process. Elections in this country are decentralized, okay? They aren't run by the federal government. All of the individual states and counties run their own elections and then report the ballots back to the United States federal government. This is to ensure that one person can't rig the entire thing because there's so many moving parts that it would be impossible. So when the government then goes to one of these states or counties, seizes all their ballots and takes them back to the federal government, we can't ensure that those ballots are secure. Trump and the rest of the government could literally be doing anything they want with them as we speak, and we would have no idea. They can doctor them, they can fake them, they can change people's votes, they can say whatever they want to. And you know what Trump said was the reason for him seizing all of these ballots? It was because they're trying to keep the elections safe. Oh yes, they want the elections to be safe and secure, which is why they're disrupting the decentralized election process that we've had for centuries and doctoring ballots behind the fucking scenes. And if you think that this is a one-off event, you really need to start paying attention. Like, Trump has been trying desperately to get voter roll data from a ton of different states. He's currently suing over 20 of them to try and obtain it, including blackmailing Minnesota, saying that they'd only remove ICE agents from the state who, may I remind you, are murdering US citizens out there if they turn over their voter roll data. In the election last year, they sent federal election monitors to each of these polling locations to do who knows what, and he's obviously been talking constantly about canceling the 2026 election. And you can say this is a joke if you want, and bro's just trolling because he does this every fucking day of his life. But when he's doing all of this shit at the exact same time, maybe we should actually try and pay closer attention to it. And the current narrative that's being passed around by the media is that this is all defined 2020 election fraud. Trump is desperately trying to prove to people that he won the 2020 election. And he and the rest of the media are saying that Tulsi Gabbard and all of these raids in these Georgia election offices are just trying to find the innocent fraud. And whether or not you think that fraud is actually there, Trump is going to come out and he's going to say that he found something. Like I just said, the ballots that he's taken are no longer secure. You can do whatever the fuck he wants to them. So what's gonna stop him from going in and editing it to say that a ton of illegal immigrants voted or some shit, even though they have never been allowed to vote? And why the fuck would someone who's illegal in this country ever go to a polling location anyway? It's hard enough to get actual citizens to go out and vote. You really think illegal immigrants are like, yeah, I want to participate in the democratic process. Dude's trying not to get sent back to Central America. But anyway, that's besides the point. Now that these ballots are in Trump's hands, he can do this shit to him. So he's gonna come out sometime this year and say, look, the 2020 election was stolen, and probably use that as an excuse to throw the National Guard into polling locations or place ICE right outside of ballot boxes. It is not exaggeration to say anymore that Trump is doing whatever he can to rig the 2026 elections. And if we don't wake the fuck up to that fact, then we're just gonna let it happen, because there are no bills being proposed in Congress to stop him from doing this. The legislative branch is just letting him do whatever the hell he wants. And he has been slowly but surely degrading the public standing of the courts too. Like, the chess pieces are getting aligned right now for him to do something fucking crazy, and no one cares, okay? So that's why this story is probably the most important one this week. Because if Trump is able to rig the 2026 midterms or the 2028 general election, then we are not going to have a democracy anymore. And somebody, God forbid, much smarter than Trump one day in the future is going to use that to legitimately install a dictatorship in America. I'm right. Cry about it. Number 3, he removed Greg Bovino as the U.S. Border Patrol commander. Gestapo Greg is officially out of this hoe. Listen, okay, there's a lot you can say about this guy. He would tell his ICE agents that this was our city and that they didn't need to obey ethical, moral, and legal standards. He would walk around in like a Nazi trench coat and order that his ICE agents remove protesters from the street at will. Or you could point to the fact that he was telling people that if you call an ICE agent the Gestapo or something like that, you would face legal consequences. Even though last time I checked, we still have some freedom of speech in this country. But the thing that stands out to me most about this guy is that he looks and sounds like a lesbian. That's obviously not a bad thing, you know? I think it's funny. Like, listen to his voice right now, okay?
Or using the term kidnapping. That is a choice.
No cisgender male sounds like that. But on an important note, this does nothing. Replacing the head of Border Patrol does not remove the ingrained culture that exists within ICE. It is literally just a cheap and fast way to shift the blame onto someone and have him go down for all the horrible, horrible shit that's been happening in Minnesota. Firing one person is not going to change the huge fucking problem that ICE has. But it is gonna make my Twitter feed a little bit less horrible, because he will no longer just be beefing with random people on Twitter anymore. Like, if you go through this guy's replies, he's literally just getting into fights with people. It's actually incredible to watch. This guy is a true keyboard warrior. Number 4, Trump also sent his border czar, Tom Homan, to be in charge of Minnesota instead. So this has been Trump's head of like all deportations. The guy we were just looking at was a little bit underneath him. And now Trump is sending the big guns in. They said he'll be overseeing immigrations and customs enforcement operations in Minnesota, but they also said that he was gonna help with the fraud investigations that are going on in Minnesota. Remember that Nick Shirley kid who was going around all those daycares? Yeah, those investigations. But here's the thing that I'm confused about. If you're picking a guy to oversee fraud investigations, why the fuck would you pick the guy that accepted $50,000 in bribes in an FBI sting operation? Like, what are we doing, bro? Bro's gonna join in. Okay, he's gonna start his own daycare. Obviously, those allegations were mostly false or had been being investigated before Nick Shirley or anyone brought them to public light. But picking this guy to lead a fraud investigation is the funniest shit I've ever heard, and is probably going to be very, very bad for the American taxpayer. And listen, Trump has been trying desperately to deflect from the killing of these innocent people in Minnesota by continuously mentioning this fake fraud that's going on. And in my opinion, the US government executing innocent United States civilians on the streets of Minneapolis is more important than my tax dollars going somewhere that probably shouldn't. I'd rather them go to a Somali daycare than to the murder of innocent people on the street, if there is even any fraud left in Minnesota. Trump also said he had a phone call with Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, and when Tim Walz was asked whether or not he had confidence in Trump's new strategy in Minnesota, he said that he's gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. Oh yeah, of course, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, okay? Because they've been just so trustworthy with how they've been doing things so far. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Like, these ICE agents were blocking access to the scene after they murdered Alex Preddy. They've been so far refusing to show body cam footage and actively fighting to keep it hidden in court. They don't give a fuck, bro. There's no benefit of the doubt that we should be giving these people. Trump is acting like he's backtracking, but in reality, he's changing nothing. And if you need proof, here's number 5. Trump said that Alex Preddy should not have been carrying a gun at the protest, which is the stupidest shit I have ever heard come out of a conservative's mouth in my life. Like, bro, what the hell are we doing?
Officials that Alex Preddy is a domestic terrorist or an assassin.
Well, I haven't heard that, but certainly he shouldn't have been carrying a gun.
There literally could not have been a stupider thing to say in that moment. Gun rights advocates are literally the most loyal voting bloc in the Republican Party. And you've just pissed off All of them. It's genuinely inspirational, bro. I don't know how this guy does it. Trump has found a way to get liberals to start defending the Second Amendment. We are officially getting it in the national divorce. I never thought this day would come. This has so far prompted some beef between the Libertarian Party and the NRA on Twitter, saying that the NRA is just sitting there doing nothing. Well, the nightmare scenario of a tyrannical government is literally happening before their eyes. The one they've been LARPing about for decades to excuse the murder of hundreds of innocent children in the United States. Shit's crazy, okay? But there was one more change Trump made to ICE this week, and it was directing them not to interact with agitators anymore. He said, hey, if there's a protester who's yelling at you or throwing things at you, just ignore him. Don't go over and throw him to the ground or detain him or fucking shoot him in the head like they've been doing. Just ignore him. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, should have been a given. The fact that you have to say this and tell your agents not to do that shit is, I think, an illustration of a much bigger fucking problem. This type of behavior is ingrained in the culture of ICE. It's not just a scenario where you can tell everyone to stop and pack it up and suddenly everything's gonna be okay. Like this video I showed you earlier of Greg Bavino is the type of thing they're telling these agents to do and think every single day. They're saying they don't need to listen to legal, ethical, or moral standards.
Fucking ours is our fucking city.
Chanting this is our fucking city right before going in. They're clapping after their fellow agents murder random people. Like, this is not something where you can just say, okay guys, time out. This entire organization needs to be disbanded and defunded, and the people within it need to be fucking tried for their crimes. I'm sorry if this feels emotional to you, but like, come on. These people are holding children in what looks like concentration camps as they're forced to chant "let us out" from within the facility. This shit is fucking horrifying. And if you voted for Trump, I get why. Okay, the economy sucked, inflation was high, you probably thought we need a new change in leadership. But if you can look at this with a straight face and say, yes, this is the right thing to do for this country, there's no conversation that I or anyone else can have with you. This is insane, okay? Anyone should be able to condemn this completely. ICE is an organization that is rotted to its core, and it needs to fucking end. Number 7, he filed a lawsuit against the IRS for leaking his tax records in 2019 and 2020. So let's get something straight for a second, okay? Trump is the president of the United States, okay? He runs the government, but he's also suing the government for $10 billion, which means that if he controls the government, he can just make a deal and pay himself $10 billion. He's essentially discovered an infinite money glitch. And if you say, well, actually, the Department of Justice is an independent agency that can't be controlled by the president, then fuck you! It used to be independent, but now Trump has made it his own personal goddamn law firm. He has literally been firing anyone who's investigated him in the past and forcing it to target his own political enemies, okay? This shit is not independent anymore. And the reason it was independent was to stop stuff like this from happening. He can literally just pay himself money. He's just transferring our tax dollars from the government to his personal account. And if you're like, oh, well, Trump deserves justice because his tax returns were leaked. First of all, the guy who leaked them is already in prison. Okay, he's already facing justice. We caught the guy. We arrested him. Justice has been served. Congratulations. And if you say that, oh, well, he deserves compensation for his tax returns being leaked, then that's a really hard argument to make, because you're essentially saying that because everyone found out he only paid $750 total in income taxes in 2017, he deserves $10 billion in addition to all the taxes he skirted to compensate that? Have fun arguing that one to any normal person in the world. I would be pretty goddamn happy if I found a way to pay almost nothing in income taxes and then get paid $10 billion when everyone finds out about it. Maybe I will. Maybe I just won't submit my tax return this year. Hopefully the Department of Justice will pay me $10 billion fucking dollars. Number 8, he arrested a journalist that was covering Minnesota protests. Okay, boys, we are in the endgame now. So this journalist, Don Lemon, he used to work at CNN, you might recognize him, went to Minnesota to cover some of the protests that were happening there. There was one being held at a church because the pastor was apparently like a field operator for ICE or something. And so he went inside, filmed it all, interviewed a few people, and then left. He didn't break any windows, he didn't hurt anybody. He wasn't even technically participating in the protest. He was just there filming. And he sent the feds to go arrest this guy. Listen, okay, there's been tons of discourse between Republicans and Democrats surrounding this shit. And the Republicans usually bring up the fact that you're not allowed to protest or disrupt a place of worship. That's to protect First Amendment rights, and you're right about that. There's a case to be made. But when someone is literally just there to film it, like not taking part in it, not doing anything, just documenting what is going on, and you arrest that guy, that is a way bigger infringement on freedom of speech than protesting inside a church ever will be. The moment a country starts to normalize cracking down on journalists like this, is the moment that free speech actually starts getting threatened. Because that's what Trump's trying to do, okay? He's doing his meter thing again. He has to do something just crazy enough to get right up next to the danger zone. This is the point where Congress actually starts to do their fucking job and impeaches the guy so that he can slowly but surely shift the status quo until the thing he was trying to do before is now suddenly okay. Because he's done it before, right? He's inching up. Do you see this? If he can detain this journalist for a day, what's gonna stop him for detaining another one for 2 days? And what's gonna stop him from holding an entire group of journalists for questioning for a week? And then what's gonna stop him from going in and raiding CNN? And then what's gonna stop him from fucking taking control of the New York Times? Do you understand what's happening, bro? Maybe I'm doing a bad job of explaining this, but it is so clear what he's trying to do. He's trying to stretch your expectations and get you used to this fact that when he actually starts to do it, it feels much less outrageous. Almost every fascist coup in history has failed because they got too crazy too fast. They did too much outrageous shit right at the beginning, and the people shut them down before they could get any further. Trump and the goddamn Nazis that walk the White House's hallways are trying to fix that problem. They're doing it little by little, very slowly, all while flooding the zone with all of this other stupid shit so that you aren't looking at what they're actually doing. This is what you need to pay attention to, okay? He's raiding election offices, he's arresting journalists, he's covering up information that Congress has forced him to give out. Like, I don't know what to say anymore, dude. I don't know what to tell you. It's so clear what he's doing. And the only thing he's banking on is you not paying attention. Even if you disagree with the actions of these protesters, you cannot justify arresting a journalist who's just there to videotape the thing. And if you are justifying it, then his plan is working perfectly. Fuck my life, dude. Number 9, he announced his pick to lead the Federal Reserve. So over the past few months, there's been this big race to see who's gonna be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve. Trump gets to choose pretty much whoever he wants to run the entire US economy. And so a lot is hinging on this shit. Some of the choices included Kevin Hassett, who looks like Humpty Dumpty, had like 4 aneurysms back to back. Like, seriously, what the fuck happened to this guy? As well as a guy named Rick Ryder, who is the chief investment officer of BlackRock. That is definitely the right choice to run the entire United States economy. Please, God, get this guy in the chair. But semi-surprisingly, a guy named Kevin Warsh won out. Kevin Warsh is kind of the moderate pick because Trump's whole thing is trying to control interest rates. The Fed chair has a lot of influence on what these rates are set at. And right now, Trump wants them to be lower. This means that the economy gets a lot better, okay? There's a lot more jobs open, employers take on a lot more people, it's cheaper to get a mortgage, okay? There are a lot of benefits to having interest rates lower. But there's one massive fucking downside, and that is inflation. When you juice the economy full of money, which is what you're doing when you lower interest rates, guess what fucking happens? The prices go up. Who would have thought that, right? It's not like we just had a president who fucking juiced the economy just like that and fucking increased the price of all our houses by like 3x. Oh my God, this country is so stupid. And the surprising thing is Kevin Warsh is kind of an inflation hawk, which means he's very concerned about inflation. Like, he doesn't want to lower interest rates. But somehow he managed to convince Trump that he would. And when you look into it, it's pretty easy to see why. Because Kevin Warsh's father-in-law is a good friend of Trump's. Ronald Lauder went to college with Trump and donated $100,000 to his 2016 campaign. But that's not even the craziest part, because Ronald Lauder is widely considered to be the person who convinced Trump to try to invade Greenland. All the way back in 2018. Bro was trying to get Trump on that shit. And it's because Lauder has a ton of business interests in Greenland. He was trying to get Trump to invade it so that he could get a huge payout on his investment. And this guy's son-in-law is the person who is now going to control the entire US economy. Like, how much stupider do we have to get as a country? Not only are we gonna lower interest rates and fucking boost inflation through the roof, just like we had a few years ago, but the guy we're choosing to do it is also only being chosen because his father-in-law wants to launder money for his own business interests. What, like, am I going crazy? Like, are you guys seeing the same shit I am? We live in the stupidest country on earth. All right, it's time for the fast round. First off, the US has told Ukraine that it has finalized a deal to hand over a bunch of its territory directly to Russia. All of this territory in red could potentially now be part of Russia under this proposed deal. And the only thing they're getting in return is, quote, security guarantees, which we've already tried before. We gave them some security guarantees when we took all of their nuclear weapons in 1994. And guess what happened when Russia invaded them? We did nothing. So security guarantees are really not going to dissuade the big Putin from just going in and taking more territory in like 5 years. But fuck the Ukrainians, I guess. Number 11, he proposed a very small price increase for Medicare and Medicaid in 2027. This could actually be the first good change of Trump's presidency. Every year, the government announces how much more it's going to pay these insurance companies for the services they provide for Medicare and Medicaid. For example, last year, I think the price increase was about 7.2%, but now they're announcing that the price increase is only 0.09%. That is insane. That is like literally almost almost nothing. And they're doing it because Trump is desperately trying to find a way to make healthcare cheaper before the 2026 midterms. Or at least look like he's making healthcare cheaper. Because although this is a good change, it's not really tackling most of the problem. If I make a pie chart and it measures the profits gained from different stages of the healthcare process, maybe 40% of profits would go to drug makers, maybe 20% would go to devices and equipment manufacturers, about 15% would go to hospitals, and this tiny sliver right here, only about 5%, would actually go to insurance companies. This isn't exact, okay? These are estimates, and this isn't really something that you can compare correctly. But my point is, insurance companies are actually not the people who are increasing the price of healthcare tenfold. It's the prescription drug makers, the hospitals, the device manufacturers, etc. And so although it's great that we're not giving a price increase to insurers over Medicare and Medicaid, like I'm not a fan of having anyone get away with the bag on this one. Healthcare is a human right, because again, a very small amount is going to insurance companies when you compare to everyone else. Hopefully that makes sense. Number 12, he rolled out his Trump investment accounts for babies. These are accounts that start off with about $1,000 of them. The money in them gets invested, and then it compounds, and then it's supposed to gain money later. It's for babies to get like a head start in life, that maybe they have a chance of buying a home one day in the future. They're locked until you're 18. You can't access the money until then. And then after that, you can only buy high value assets like houses or education, or you can use it to start a business. This sounds amazing in theory, but it actually doesn't work whatsoever, because you only get $1,000 in this account. And by the time you're 18, it's only going to compound into about $5,800, which is great, but it's not anything insane. This is what happens if you're poor and you don't add anything else to it. If you're rich, however, these accounts are great because you can deposit up to $5,000 a year into them, meaning that if you max it out, you can make up to $303,000 by the time you're 18. This is a lot better than $5,800, and it's only possible if you actually have the money to put into the account. You understand? Like, the whole idea of investment and the stock market and all of these other things is that money will make money. The reason people are losing out is because they don't have money, and giving them another opportunity to put their money into something that will gain value is only going to make the people with money have more money. Like, this isn't a crazy concept to understand, and it's why all these banks and CEOs are so happy to donate money to it, because they know it's actually going to do nothing to solve the inequality crisis, and they can continue profiting off of a system that was built by them for them over the course of the last 40 years. And finally, last but not least, Trump sent a fundraising email to all of his supporters threatening to deport them if they didn't fill out his survey. This is a real fundraising email that he sent out to like hundreds of thousands of people. Your file says you're a top MAGA patriot, but my records to my survey still say response pending. Don't tell me you're an illegal alien. This is your final movement to prove me wrong. Are you a proud American citizen, or does ICE need to come and track you down? Holy fuck, this is fucking crazy, bro. When Woke 2.0 comes around, we need to make this shit illegal. Fundraising emails need to just be like, hey, will you donate to my campaign? Not literally, we will deport you unless you give us your data. That's fucking dystopian as hell. All right, now for our trackers. Inflation is at 2.7% and steady, still above target rate, but not increasing horribly yet, at least until Trump cuts interest rates by a shit ton. Unemployment is at 4.4% and steady. This stat is kind of useless. I'm trying to figure out what I should put here instead, because there's a ton of people that are technically employed in the economy and who are not making anywhere near enough money to survive. Egg prices are $2.71 a dozen, still high but lower than they were a few months ago. Gas is at $3.05, again still high but lower than it was a few months ago. And Trump has so far spent $130,200,000 of taxpayer money playing golf in his term. This is more than twice as much as Obama spent during the same time period, and more than twice as much as Biden spent during his entire presidency. I'm glad we cut all the waste, fraud, and abuse, because Donald Trump needs his golf time as he murders US citizens on the street and arrests journalists for no reason. And that brings us to the end of another wonderful week of the worst year to be alive in the history of the United States. Holy shit, I want to kill myself. Hopefully you guys had a good week. I know that it's painful to keep up with all this shit. I know that looking through it just makes you feel utterly hopeless, but know that that is exactly what he wants. His strategy of flooding the zone is to get people to tune out and not pay attention to the real underlying changes that he's making to our country. And the moment you get hopeless or bored or exhausted from all the shit that's happening is the moment he has permission to pretty much do whatever he wants. Thank you again to my patrons. You guys are absolute fucking legends. Thank you to everyone who's watching these videos. It means a shit ton to me. As always, if you have suggestions for these videos or stuff that I missed, leave it in the comments below. I'll see you boys next week. Stay informed, stay tuned in, and I'll be back once again to cover all of the horrible shit that is happening in this country.